Hello, everyone. This is the first series of lecture when I'm not in a class. Today, I'm going to talk about Chapter 7, uh, which is which is about multiple forms and modules and menus. Um, so far, the programs that we wrote, we used just one form in our application, but as you might see before, many application contains several forms for several reasons. For example, if you want to have um, a custom message box, let's say, or if you have several data entry form, you need to have more than one form. So basically, this chapter going to covers multiple forms, and then we're going to talk about modules, which is a file that you can reside your um, text file. I'm sorry, you can reside your functions and procedures there. And then we talk about how to create a menu, same as here, for example. You see this insert menu, design, and so on and so forth. So you can add this structure to your program. And that make more sense after I talk about that because by clicking on each one of them, probably you know that it goes in different portion of the or section of your program. So that basically justifies having more than one form. And the last part it talks about a special program that they be used as a demo here. Uh, so for beginning, I created an application and I uploaded this program also on the web. This is regular Visual Basic program. So let's get back to explain some of the features that we already seen. Uh, Here in this section, we call it Solution Explorer, and you see the list of the files that your program involved with. Some of them we already talked about that. For example, references. If your program contains a DLL and a special type of the files, it resides there. If you have any resources such as pictures, also you can add it to your project. The most important part is the list of the forms. As you see, the first form or the main form that I added to my program, and by default, when you create your project, this form will show up. We call it Form 1. This when I click on the Form 1, we have the set of properties related to that window. You see that here. And we know so far that each form contains a file that describe or has the code of the form. So you can access to that by, for example, right-clicking on the form as I do here, and then you can say View Code. So you write your code there. Let me answer this. The each class. So each form has a name, and as we know, we are able to change the name here in the text property of the form. But I think that's a good time right now to talk about this problem. I've seen that a lot. I think that's bug in Visual Studio. So we can change the name here either by changing the name directly in the property page or right-clicking on a form in the Solution Explorer and use the rename option, and you can check it to, let's say, main. However, when you do that, you'll see this error shortly, and I think that's a good time right now to show you how to fix it. So when you run this, it'll throw an error, and there's a build error, and when you say it says, would you like to continue and run the last successful build? So we say no here. Then you see the error here in this page. So when you click on the error, it redirects you to another page that basically shows, although we changed the name of the form, but the form still remains to the previous name. So all we need to do, we need to change this form 1 to the given name. So I change it to main again. So that should solve the problem. So when I run that, the form works. Corresponding to each form, we have a code file. So code file contains a class. The only thing here is the name of the class should be exactly the same name as the design of the form. So if my form is main.vd, my class name also should be main, and so you cannot change the name of it. So now the question is how I can have more than one form. The easiest way to add a new form is just click on the solution and right click on that. Then you see the add option here. Click new item. I think I came to the wrong place. That's the Solution Explorer. New item. Yes. So once again, you go to the project name, right click, and the list of the new item that you can add to your project is visible. So now I'm going to add a new form and I call it the message, let's say, and hit the add button. As you see, the second form is added to the project. So now I have two forms. The characteristic of the form is exactly same as the previous one. What that means is you can go to your toolbox and add as many as controls you want on the form. For example, here, the same as previous one, I'm going to add a label here. And I'm going to change the label name to LVL message. And I'm going to add one button. And the name of the button is BTN close. And let's change the caption of the button as well. I call it close. And as you know, you can change the text and other properties like the buttons here, the standard buttons like close, maximize, and so on. The same as main form that we so far we work with. If you right click on it and say the view code, you have a class corresponding to that. The class name is the message, and the message is the same name as the design mode. So if you click here in this project, you see the class name which is corresponding to this message. Okay, we added this, but if you run this, it still shows me the first form. So the second form is not used here yet. One thing we need to notice is if we have multiple forms, we need to define, or we need to tell compiler which form we consider it as the start of form. So in order to specify that, right click to the project name and then go to the properties. In the properties, you have an option here, main, message, and form 1. Unfortunately, there is some bug here. So you see the form 1, although we changed the name of the form, still the form 1 is there. However, you can change anyone. You can choose any of this form as a startup form as it states here. So for example, if I change the startup form to message, then if I compile it, the message form will show up first. And if I put it back to main, then if I compile it, the previous form, the first form, will show up. So this is how we create it. So the slide here explains all these things. So feel free to go once again. This is chapter 7. So this slide shows you how to add a new form and talks about the class and class name. In order to remove a form, that you recently created or any other forms, you can just simply right click on that and then delete it use the delete option here from your project, and that'll delete it. And here it talks about how to make a startup form. Now it comes to the design. So the question is, once again here, why do we need to have multiple form? As I mentioned here, a lot of projects is not limited to just one form. For example, if you look at this Visual Studio's environment, you probably, based on experience we have in Visual Basic, you see a lot of familiar components that we already seen. In this chapter, we're going to learn about how to build a menu similar to this. And as you know, any of these menus, some of them basically, when I click on that, another window opens. So that's the why we have multiple forms, basically, to separate the task, or we don't want to concentrate all the tasks in the application to just one form. We don't want to limit to that. So now the question is how I can use this form and how I can call this. In order to do that, in my main form, I'm going to add a button here. And the task of this button is to open the second form. So I'm going to change the name of this button to btn form. Let me call it message. So that will show me that by clicking on the bottom one, I'm going to open the message one box, and then I'm going to change the caption of this to message. We can write our regular form. So before I write it, let me back to the slides and show you a couple things here that I think, I'm not sure if it is visible or not, but I'm going to put it in slide mode from current slide. So as you see here, this slide shows you how we can call this form. As we know, as I mentioned, that each form has a class corresponding to that. In order to use a form in our to call a form, we need to create a variable from that form. The variable from form is, we do this way. So dim is a keyword, we need to use that. Then we use the class name as keyword. We're going to use a new keyword here, which is a new keyword. We didn't see that before. Then we put our class name. So this is the variable name and this is the class name. By executing this line, we create a variable or instance of this class in the memory so we can call it. For example, if my form name is error form, I can create frm error, which is a variable corresponding to that, by using new keyword. So why we use new keyword? Because this is not a primitive variable. Primitive variable, if you recall, like double, integer, and so on and so forth, we don't need to use new keyword with them. However, if we have a class or an object and we try to create a variable from them, we need to use a new keyword. So what new keyword does is create an instance of that object in the memories, and so we have access and we can use that. So after we create this, we have a variable corresponding to that form. Then we're able to call this and then show it. There are two methods to show that, either show dialog or show. So let me first create a variable, then we go back to this part. So I'm going to say dim. So because this is a variable, and variable usually starts with 3 letters as we discussed. For example, integer starts with int, and usually the form related variable we start with frm. And I'm going to create an instance of the message form, so therefore I call it frm message as message. Don't confuse, this is message box. This message is corresponding to the message class that we create here. So, so I have the message form, and once again, corresponding to this message form, I have a message class. So when I use this in the code, this message that you see here is corresponding to the message class. So I have the variable of that. Now I'm able to use this form in my program in the so if you imagine right now I am inside the main. In the main, I'm going to write a code that when I click on this message button, I would like to show the message form. Okay. So now, in order to show that, I have two options here. One of them is show dialog. The other one is show. Show dialog is in, we call it a modal form, but show, just to show, is modeless mode. What is the difference between modal and modeless? In modal, when we open a window on top of the main, you don't have, as long as the second form is open, we don't have access to the parent form, the previous form, as long as, for example, like a message box. However, in modeless, it's not like that. So if you open the second form, when you call this, you have access to the previous one, and possibly you can manipulate it if you want. So let me show you the example, probably that make more sense when I show it on the compiler. For example, I can say here frm message right now. Because I create a variable, I can call this. I can say here show dialog. Yes, show dialog. And then let me run this. So I have this one. Ooh, error. Let me see what happened here for frm message as message. Yes, I see what happened here because I didn't properly define this variable. As you see here, we need to use the new keyword, which I didn't. So when you create it, you need to use new keyword and create an object. Then it's used. Then we can use it. So when run it here again. So this is my modal window. So let me close the visual. So you see this one on top of my screen. So I cannot run or do anything on the parent form, which is form 1. Whenever I click this one, just shines until I just close it down. Then I can use or run, move this one or change the size or whatever I can do on this one. For example, again, when I click on message, the previous one is not accessible unless I make decision on this one, either close it or take action on the child window. Then I can do the other one. So let me get back to the compiler and then close this. However, the second option would be, I can say here frm message dot just show. Now I'm going to save it and then run that. As you see here, so this is this one is open on the second one, same as previous, but I'm able to use this one. However, the second one depends on the first one because we create the object, the message window object inside the form 1 or the parent form. If I close this one, the form 1 or the parent form, the second one, which is the child window, also will be closed. But it's not true for the other way. For example, I can close this one, and then I can work with the parent form. But if I close parent form, the entire program will be shut down. So that's the difference between these two. I'm going to stop right now and up to this point, and we're going to continue in the second video, which you're going to see that most probably on Wednesday. Thank you, and have a good day.